Welcome back to Rottam, my name is Beast, and today we're back with a new game, namely Hello Lady. Actually, as far as you know, it's called Hello Lad. Since, you know, I make bad jokes, you should have noticed by now. This is probably, actually this is potentially your first video. I doubt it though. Who knows? Might be. Anyways, so yeah, this game has been graciously gifted to me by somebody who immediately regretted it upon finding out that someone else wanted to gift me this game. I was like two people at the same time talking about gifting me this game, but one of them was talking about gifting it to me via Steam, while the other one was saying that he was gonna send me the money. And I was only aware of the money guy. I wasn't aware of the gift guy. But then the gift guy sent it, and I'm like panicking, like, oh my god, I need to tell the other one that I have it now so he doesn't try to send me money. That was very awkward, still. Again, very much thanks for that one, though. Since, you know, I don't get review copies like Scott. Just kidding, of course. Anyways, anything else I wanted to talk about? No. Oh yeah, this is the all ages version because I'm not about to deal with the headache of trying to, you know, throw up the fucking censorship every fucking second because I think there might be something I have to censor and then I miss it anyways and have to censor anyways. Which causes me to have to leave the fucking computer on for over the fucking night again. Wasting a bunch of electricity and making the electricity bill fucking skyrocket, which I don't appreciate. Anyways, so yeah, all ages version. Anyways, let's just get into it. By the way, the game actually tried to throw me right into the start the second I opened the fucking game. Like I had no chance to actually do any settings. Thank God that there was an title screen button, and just pressing this gets me back to where it tried to throw me in. Hey Kiryu. Hey Kiryu, how's it going?
男の反逆と自由へ至る道のりの物語である。
There was a light in the back cabin of a helicopter that was speeding through the sky, the roaring sound of its rotary wings cutting through the air. It was a device of unknown origin and affiliation. There was a light in the back... the faint backlight on the tablet displayed a map of the area below it. T Prefecture, Okushima City, a Sumi Award. A rural landscape so far as the eye could see. It was a 10-kilometer area centered around a circular road in the countryside. I'm gonna change something again. It looks a bit better. Unmanicured feminine fingers ran over the tablet, making it display. This is very loud. Hold on. Thank you. It is a lot better. There you go, and then I'll just do that, I guess. Let's also turn down the max volume a bit. There we go. That should be better, I think. Hold on. Was he just... Why is it just like, ah, yes! 4! They're making it display new detailed data with every snap. She was clad in a lab coat that seemed out of place in a tight space, and a perfectly proportioned body was hidden underneath it. Her eyes hid profound wisdom, truly sobering beauty, covered by the rough exterior of the armored machine. Yuki no Yomise had an aura about her that made her hard to approach, like a soldier guarding something extremely dangerous. Tokino was not in the military, however. She was a scientist, and her lack of a manicure was due to her constant handling of chemicals and other experiment material. I mean, you don't need to explain why she doesn't have a manicure. Girl could also just not like manicures. I'm not about to judge her. Why's that load? The level cabin suddenly tilted to one side. The ghost helicopter banked to the left, starting to lose altitude. The sound of its rotary wings reached the town, which was dark and silent, as you'd expect from a nighttime rural hub. UH-1 Iroquois was a rather old among helicopters, created by the American Bell Aircraft Corporation in 1956. Half a century had passed since its maiden flight, but the utility helicopter still saw use all over the world. Japan was no exception. Indeed, used by both JFD and civilians. JSDF, I mean. Not JFD. The fuck did I get JFD from? The machine flying through Okushima's sky had taken off on a police helipad, but unlike police helicopters, which were silver and blue in color, this one was a simple gray color, melted into the darkness, showing no symbols or colors denoting its affiliation, as if it was meant to be hidden. Only get a ghost was no exaggeration. Screenplay. Wataru Hino, Jo Shudo. Giving no thought to the turbulence due to a change in altitude, Tokino touched the screen and wrote down the predicted route to the target.
天川にかかった白大橋、全長約1キロ。その先は奥島市の都心部まで一本道だ。住役の国道をまっすぐ南下している大正 A は、現在の速度のままなら、ものの数分で天川対岸にたどり着く。
Okushima was the largest town in T Prefecture, but it only had a population of 260,000. It was little more than a generic rural town that just happened to have a developed area around its station. The fact that it wasn't a major city was a silver lining, but if the target reached the heart of the town, the casualties would still be great. It was basically an illness, perhaps an elegy, within human society. If left alone, it would become a poison that would erode both society and the current order. Thus, it had to be dealt with as soon as possible. The group Tokino Yomise belonged to were people who specialized in dealing with such tasks, such as medicine would be used to treat standard sicknesses. They would cure the things plaguing society.
ということだ、諸君。ステージの準備を始めよう。ふさわしからざる者にふさわしきフィナーレを。
The helicopter's cabin had 2 rows of seats. Tokino sat on the one closer to the back, while the one near the front was occupied by 2 people who looked like mere civilians. And they were girls. Girls who wore the uniforms unique to a certain educational facility. The red and white made it clear that, like Tokino, they were neither police nor JSDF. The one on the left was Mitoriu Kabutoyama. She gracefully hid her mouth with a closed fan and giggled with a bell-like voice.
時野先生、ステージだなんてそんなおっしゃりようはしたないですわ。
そうかね。君たちの晴れの舞台には違いあるまい。外で羽を伸ばせて嬉しいのだと思っていたんだがね。
Tokino cracked a beast-like smile. So what? She sounded like she looked like a fucking maniac. Tokino cracked a beast-like smile. Didn't suit her sagacious appearance whatsoever. She was excited. Her interest as a doctor, curiosity as a scientist, checking on the results of an experiment, and arousal as a woman about to hunt down her prey had all overwhelmed her. However, Tokino knew she was little more than a bit player. Like any other time, she was just there as a supervisor to deal with unexpected circumstances. The girls were the stars of this show. Tonight's performance would lead them to the yet far to the yet greater heights they strive towards.
もう
That was no
ひ
fun.
どい言い草ですこと。音無さん、あなたからも先生に何か言って差し上げたら。無駄話はそこまでにして気を引き締めなさい。私たちにはなすべきことがある。
Haruka Sora, isn't it? I know Haruka Sora is in this game, by the way. That's Haruka Sora, isn't it? This one's the Meguru. Character design, Hokuto Saiki. The black-haired girl's dignified voice came right from her heart and ended the trifling moment. The ghost swerved downwards, flying right above the large bridge. Flying so low above an urban area at night was utter madness, but the pilot, handpicked from the JGSDF, did it without any change in his expression. However, the descent was as fast as a free fall, and the air currents caused by flying close to buildings were fierce. The machine shook wildly. It was akin to a leaf caught in a whirlwind, so the passenger had to hold on tight. Any normal person would expect them to scream, but they didn't show a hint of fear. Instead, they looked outside, glaring at their enemy in the darkness far below. It was a beast-like silhouette that was speeding southward on the iron bridge that was illuminated by the city's lights. Its shape was humanoid, but it couldn't have been human. Humans couldn't run that fast. Target A had exceeded the predicted speed and already arrived at Shido Bridge. The other side was just 900 meters away. Graphic generalization, Shiho Fukami. They had less than a couple of minutes before it made it to the other side. That meant they didn't have a moment to lose. The ghost helicopter sped up and quickly flew above the other end. There was no place for it to land, yet the pilot knew that, so he simply brought the helicopter to ground level above the riverbank.
急げ。市街地へ入る前に阻止しろ。
Urged by Tokino Saku, Otonashi put her hand right over her hair to prevent it from becoming a mess due to the rotor's wind pressure, then jumped to the ground. She just stood tall and proper. Saku gave the impression of a strung bow. It almost felt like her presence alone changed the very air around her. Mitori elegantly stood right next to her. Didn't look like she was tense. Instead, she had an impish smile on her face, which was quite unlike the one she wore when simply chatting in the classroom.
魔王の方が適切だったでしょうか。
同じことだよ。サク、君がいる以上は。
Sound angel note. Ah, finally, it's one where this one is the button to get rid of the text. There we go, we have the potential CG. The amount of these dispatches had increased recently. It was the 7th in just half a year. And Saku didn't know whether it was an ill omen or a blessing in a very tricky disguise. Whatever the case, she knew she would have to think on it later. No matter the situation. When something important happened, Saku Otonashi never forgot her duty.
サク。
Tokino didn't even have to warn her. Saku had already seen it. With its hands on the ground like a beast, the silhouette ran forward, bent like a swallow in flight, and it fixed its eyes, burning with hatred, at the girls before it. There was no telling what it sensed, one way or another. However, it understood that they were its mortal enemies before the fight even began. So it focused all of its murderous intent on them. Target A transformed into a bullet and shot forward. They were close to hundreds of meters in mere seconds and reaped the lives of the ones in its way. The silhouette may have been humanoid, but it was now nothing but a beast, a malignant tumor that both the intelligence and power of a leopard. No normal human, especially not your usual unarmed girl, stood a chance against it. Despite that, Saku and Nukuri showed no fear before this beating beast. Program Whamsoft.
それでは幕を開けるといたしましょう。ミトリはまだ3度目でしょ。少しは緊張しなさい。時の先生のおっしゃる通り、今夜はせっかくの晴れ舞台。私、小娘のように浮かれておりますわ。戦の花は華やかに舞うもの。兜山家の流儀に従って 見事この夜を飾ってご覧に入れましょう。セット。 We are such stuff as dreams are made on.
Ah.
Type the Tempest 7. Run.
The spear is released in conjunction with the dancing fan, were too fast for the naked eye to perceive. The speed gradually surpassing that of the murderous beast, it passed the hundreds of meters in a flash, hitting their mark with unmatched precision. As Mitri, feeling confident, close to Fan, the man's beast speeding through the bridge like a black wind suddenly lost its balance. Its speed was its downfall. Man-beast collapsed and hit the ground, kicking up dust around it. Then tried to stand up, but no amount of struggling was enough. It seemed to almost be bound by invisible spears.
最初から派手すぎよ、ミトリー。あなたらしいけれど。久しぶりでしたもので、つい力が入りすぎてしまったようですわ。
Squinting a bit, she opened her fan, covered her mouth, and laughed. Long hair of refined beauty reminiscent of Japanese dolls had surprisingly strong nerves.
では楽しんできたまえ、君らのステージを。
Sakura had no intention of listening to her dear teacher in that regard. There will be no enjoyment here. No, she will simply fulfill her role.
人々のノーブルたらんことを。どんな自分になりたいだろう。それはとてつもなくありきたりの問いかけだ。誰だって一度は明日の自分にある輝きを乙女のような夢に見る。夢見ることは誰にでもできるが、現実は冷酷極まりない。
I hope the type of window changes soon, because I do not like this type of window. Or is it something I have to like select? Not that window.
眠るウサギを亀が追い抜いていくというおとぎ話は、つまるところ眠らないウサギに亀では勝てないという厳然たる事実の証明なのだから。だからこそ音無し作はより高くより先を恋願う。かつてを振り向いたところで意味はない。絶えざる歩みで一途に一心に前進を続ける。そんな自分でありたいと今この瞬間も思っている。きっとどんなものにも追いつけるように。
Hello, lady! What? I just read it out. Damn screaming at me. Not my fault. Curtain rises, apparently. Part 1. Why? Why? What kind of noble concept? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Please help. Time is my ally.
時間こそ
Whoops.
が
Sorry.
私の味方だ。
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
季節は移ろう。尖れたものは錆びてゆく。刻まれた言葉もやがて忘れられる。変化という名の堂々巡り。忘れない私はただ一人、ひたすら前へ歩き続ける。
I reminisce about the sky I gazed up at long ago. What is that? Face window, autumn mode. Oh, okay. This is like the proper. I like the music thing there. What is about the sky I gazed up at long ago? Young fingers had pointed at a rainbow, decorating it. The vibrant colors that had sliced through the sky inspired me to dash toward it. I had dreams of catching up to that bridge in the sky, but it's since become a mere vision of days lost.
それでは舞台の幕を上げよう。
As small town popped up amidst the simple yet humble countryside. It didn't feel like it belonged. Instead, it appeared to be an oasis in a desert. Of course, this was no desert. The town was no oasis. This was the land where Shinri Narita set the long-awaited stage.
ところでご主人様、いかがいたしましょうか。
とはいえ、ようやくの約束の地でありながら、街並みを行き交う人の影はなく、密集したビルの淡いを抜ける風は冷たく乾く。いささか寂しすぎることは事実だな。
The town, which had been constructed around the hotel and mall near the station, had both old and new buildings, probably due to inadequate city planning. It reminded me of Dali's paintings, holy and corrupt, the new and old mixed without a hint of organization. It had a curious kind of beauty that tugged at my heartstrings.
ご主人様、ご主人様。おーい、この鬼畜セクハラ偉そばり、イシアの話を聞いていますか？お尻に石棺用マジカルスティックぶち込みますですよ。
It was late at night, so the lack of people was natural. A stray, emancipated Inu ran up to me, only to run away with its tail between its legs when our eyes met. Wild beasts living under the law of survival of the fittest had senses far more keen than a human. Surely it was scared of the danger it smelled and
見られよ天上の主。ようやくここへたどり着いたのだ。宿命の糸を手繰り、あらゆる苦難を越えて、この約束された舞台へと。おお、麗しい月よ。いかなる時も安らぎを微笑みかけてくれた女神よ。これより先は修羅の惨憺、落類の舞台劇なれば、どうかしばし目を閉じて安らかな夢にまどろみたま
え。ご主人様、独り言も大概にしなければ、ぶっちゃけ打ち上げられた竜宮の使いよりも不気味です。ヒシア、すっかりドン引きしております。
There you go.
うん、何か言ったかね。親愛なる我が次女よ。
はい、敬愛するご主人様、いかがいたしましょうか。
Her name was Mori Hishia. If the English-style retro maid uniform didn't make it obvious, she was a maid serving none other than yours truly. Quite a perfect one at that. Though no human was free of flaws, hers was her lack of ability to read the mood.
ヒシア、今私のテンション的にちょうど山場なのだ。
ええ、まあ個人的にご主人様の斜め上の山場などどっちでもいいとヒシアは申しますが、それよりもこの先いかがいたしましょうか。いつまでも駅前で突っ立っているのはヒシア的にいかがなものであろうかと判断いたします。深夜でよかったと言いますか、昼間で誰かの視線があったら即他人顔で逃げ出したいですが、自助的にはできないのでゴールドをムカつくのです。ちなみにゴールドよりマシなのがシルバー、さらにちょっぴりなのがブロンズムカつくでございます。
Oh, great mage, you had a tendency to be quite dense.
この先どうするのか決まっているとも。私は行くべきところへ行き、なすべきことをなす。
I don't know why, but this exchange reminded me of what do we do today? The same thing we do every day. Take over the world. Pinky and the brain. I don't know why it just reminded me of that. It just did. The prefecture Okushima City was one of the largest areas in Shikoku. That was him saying that. I don't have to read him. I need to remember that. The town's flower was sakura, and its special product was sudachi. It was a prefectural capital and had an airport. According to the census from 2010, it had a population of 263,542 out of the 775,421 total in the entire prefecture. By Japanese standards, it was rural compared to random places in Europe or the Middle East. It was quite urban. There were forests and wastelands 1 or 2 days away on foot. Japan had over 100 million people in a relatively small area. You could find convenience stores by walking in a random direction for just 10 minutes. When you considered that, perhaps Japan was the anomaly. Okushima was often called the town of water. You mostly see it as PR on tourist pamphlets. However, it was no dive. There's sea to the east, as well as a whole 3 rivers passing through it. The largest local event was the folk dance that happened in summer during one. It was well known both locally and in other countries. The event was considered one of the 3 greatest festivals in Japan at the 4 days during when it would be held. Attracted 1 million visitors from Japan and beyond. It was said that the locals trained from a young age to prepare for the dance festivals and become their stars. The dance steps there had 400 years of history behind them. Combined with the unique folk clothing, they mesmerized and united the observers like a divine ritual. I would have loved to see it, but unfortunately I had no time to spare. I, Shinri Narita, something I had to do and a sacred promise I had to fulfill.
時に我が信頼する侍女よ。君に一つ疑問があるのだが。
はい、ご主人様。イシアに何なりとお尋ねください。
I went and asked a little question and it come to mind.
何故夜なのだろ
う。なぜとは面倒なので3行で説明をとイシアはお願いいたします。
Needless to say, to me, it was easier than catching a locust.
奥島市に着いた我々はかの地へ向かわねばならない。しかるに我々の到着は早朝の予定であったと記憶している。今が深夜なのはどうしたことだろ
う。お見事です、ご主人様。3行で完璧に伝わりました。
Hisha praised me with a smile adorning her face.
それほどでもあるが、私の才覚をもってすれば他愛もないことだよ。わざわざ褒めるには値しない。それで何故なのかね。
I could just turn off the BGM indicator, but then it would feel odd because this way it's like nicely crowded down there, but if I do that it's like half crowded. Oh, that's the face view. So many things to turn on and turn off.
それはご主人様のおっしゃられた通りでということにございます。
シアの返事は時折全クエスチョンのごとく難解になる。
まあ話すと長いですので
簡潔に1行で頼もう。
予約する飛行機の便を間違ってしまいました。
I understood her explanation immediately.
素晴らしいね。見事だ、シア。
強烈至極。
She stood upright, placed a hand on her chest, and smiled. Everyone makes mistakes. There was no reason to scold her over such a minor error. As the saying goes, time is money. That was worth much more than gold. When you look at it that way, arriving half a day early isn't even a problem. It was something we had to think about, however.
深夜の街でこれから我々はどうするべきなのだろう。
We had to travel to our destination, but securing the means for that was hard at night. Since we'd planned to arrive in the morning, we hadn't reserved a hotel in advance. Lastly, standing in front of the station at night was quite dull. My trusty and loyal maid replied to my question with a very American shrug.
さあ。
Fancy transitions? Promises must always be kept. Perhaps that did not apply to the rest of the world, but to me, Shinri Narita, promises were solemn contracts and oaths before God. Even mere verbal agreements had weight to me. Promises were the past. In simpler terms, they were part of the path that made you. To shun a promise was to deny a path you walked and ridicule yourself as one not worthy of any faith. To one as great as I, promises were simply priceless. I would set my very soul to fulfilling them. Many would laugh at those who let their past find them, and I believe that too. It was bold in its own way. But it wasn't something that I, Shinri Narita, would choose. I had no idea who I took after. It had to be an obstinate fool, but that was part of me as well. If I let go of that, I would stop being Shinri Narita. Thus, I would go. I don't know why, but I really like his eyes. They look very nice. Shinri Narita had a promise to fulfill. It was the very reason why I returned to this place in the distant east. Now, however, I had a problem. Hishi and I had planned to arrive at dawn, but a mistake made us appear too early. Sorry. He'd stop while having my glasses off. It makes my eyes hurt. Okay, why the fuck did that just not help at all? Should be better now. Nope, not better at all, motherfucker. There's gonna be an annoyance. Why? Delilah. Better? Except not. My fucking god. Yeah, I should just do like fucking laser surgery or something. My convictions left no room for fear of gods, Buddha, justice, or false accusations of perversion, but flow of time alone was quite difficult to handle. Perhaps I should have realized the mistake when we switched planes. While I am very short, I'm also very apathetic, ignoring trivialities.
そのあたりのぶっちゃけ大雑把なところはさすがご主人様。医師は見習いませんけれど。
ところで名前は何と言ったかな。
名前まで忘れるのはご主人様の大雑把も大概にしやがれです。これから向かうのは天下はノーブルスクール、通称スクールと呼ばれております。
そう、それだよ。さすがは菱屋だ。
ところでご主人様、駅からそれなりに歩いてきましたが、どちらへ向かっておられるのでしょうか。
もちろんスクールへだ。
Bestowed towards the promised land, walking on the right side of the automobile road that seemed endless, with only the stars as our light. Waiting until dawn would have been dull, so I figured it best to take a look at the place where I would spend my many days starting tomorrow. With every step closer, I grew more excited.
市街からほんの10キロ程度のはずだ。あと5キロも行けば学園が見えてくるだろう。
菱屋の記憶が間違っていなければ、例の場所は山の上にあったのではと。
平和な日本の治安と静けさを堪能しながら夜歩きするのもたまにはいいものだろう。
ご主人様の趣味に付き合わされるこっちの身にもなりやが。
A sound broke through the night air.
事故でしょうか。
The sound came after. That came after was no doubt gunfire. I doubt it's an accident. I dashed off before the echo even stopped. I headed for the source of the sound fast enough to rent the darkness. slightly thinned out by the moonlight.
どうやら日本の治安というのもそれほどには当てにならなくなったらしいな。
The high-pitched metallic sound all around, the intense smell of gunpowder. I was all too familiar with these things, and they were a sign, always a sign of impending danger. On a slight curve of the road, in a place where vision grew more limited, I found a car that had hit the guardrail. It looked intentional. A large German car, painted black, with tinted windows. It was a menacing combination that couldn't possibly have been carrying common people. The sight before me was far more appalling than an accident. A group of armed men surrounded the vehicle like a pack of wild dogs around a wounded Impala. The woman, who was clearly a passenger, had a smoking gun barrel pointed at her. It had to be the source of the sound. It had been fired to threaten her. The armed group all hit their faces on the rubber masks you'd see on months in Hollywood films. It looked like a Halloween party, though one too bloody and dangerous even for that holiday. Attacking an unarmed woman whilst armed and hiding your face was the height of shallowness. Perhaps they deserved praise for being well prepared for whatever wicked acts they were committing.
ご主人様、もう少し手加減して走っていただけないと、ヒシアは追いつくのが。
Hisha was slightly out of
下
breath.
級の時代だ。やむを得まい。
おや、カラシニコフを振り回して喜んでいる連中とは。
The group weren't armed with the new Nimbus handguns used by the local law enforcement. The form of the gun alone wasn't menacing. They were automatic rifles, the famous AK-47. The weapon was created over half a century ago in the old Soviet Union, and its ease of use and endurance, which allowed it to operate even when muddy, made it a common sight in regional conflicts all across the world. I'd heard that the manufacturer couldn't handle society's hardships and went bankrupt due to the economic climate, but there were perfect copies being made all across the world, which was a testament to its reputation. There were over 100 million of them in the entire world. Many of them had been used to shoot and kill sworn enemies at this very moment. The AK-47 was a powerful symbol of war.
7年ぶりの母国が小銃で武装したゲリラの跋扈する荒廃社会になり果てていたとはな。離れる前のジャパンといえば世界有数の治安を誇っていたのだが、
あの銃はサッカー選手のボール、作家のワープロと同レベルにゲリラとテロリストのお友達と言われております。世界で一番安価な自動小銃 AK の入手はお財布に優しく、その気になれば極東島国のバス停ギャングでも簡単かと。
Kalashnikov had lost its value due to overproduction. I heard that in Namba, one of Japan's most dangerous towns, you could get a box of 6 for a mere 30,000 yen, with vendors behind every family gyudon
愛
restaurant.
する祖国と人民のためにこの銃を生み出したかのミハイル・カラシニコフ氏が聞けば、墓石の下で大いに嘆くに違いあるまい。
But this was no time to wax poetic about someone no longer with us. Whether the men were some terrorists looking to make some money for a ransom, or some cultists lost to fanaticism, it didn't matter to the victim
か
whatsoever.
くして車両とその乗客の運命は風前の灯火も当然と。
Location was a generic rural area, the optimal place for such wickedness. Both the sound of the crashing car and the heavy echoes of the gunshots would be consumed by the night, making it unlikely that anyone would come to stop
そ
them.
れではご主人様、ヒシアはお伺いします。
There was only one possible answer to that question. I marched forward and stood before the armed group in a most casual manner. Hichia instantly understood my intentions and simply accompanied me.
何をしているのかね。
My unexpected appearance perplexed the group. 10 minutes earlier. Be noble. On the car's doors, there was a school emblem based on the character for heaven, and those words were written
ノ
around
ー
it.
ブルたれ。
She vocalized that single word. Tenkama Noble Academy's mantra was that the noble must guide. The words spoke of how those with superior qualities should act.
良い言葉ですね。
はい、同感です。
帝理事長が 学章にも刻むことを命じられたと言います。
Don't fucking tell me the cookies are involved in this. I was not about like the word, the name Mikado for me will always have the kooky parallel to me, and quite frankly, I would 100% expect the Kooky Corporation to open a fucking school like this.
それにしても随分と時間がかかってしまいました。
It was profound darkness outside. It was late at night. Tokino Yomise and Saku Otonashi were returning from the aftermath of the dispatch the prefecture had demanded. They'd gone around many areas and conducted a number of negotiations. Such work was generally Tokino's role, so Saku didn't really have to accompany her. However, Tokino always took Saku with her because these opportunities were rare. A person gained much more by experiencing something for themselves. Theory alone was useless without practical experience. There were many things that could only be learned from the mood around the actual negotiation table.
今頃クラウンの子たちはもう就寝しているでしょうね。
私たちがいないので羽を伸ばしていそうですけれど。
普段厳しくしすぎなのではありませんか？
私、そんなにうるさく言っているつもりはありません。
The large car belonging to the academy ran southward over the dark, empty public roads. The city lights were far away. In this area, anything inside town looked like a dark sea.
ノーブル。
She muttered that word, thinking of things only she could know.
それがスクールの目指すところです。
不思議な言葉です。
尊くあれ、気高くあれ、強くあれ、美しくあれ、正しくあれ。さまざまな意味をはらんだ言葉。帝理事長はあなたたちが本物のノーブルたり得ることを期待されています。
Oh boy, I can't wait for the first instance of a character where I can say, well, there are certainly fucking, they're certainly not being the beautiful part of that equation. Can't wait for me to be able to say that.
本物ですか？
人類はこれまでにもさまざまなシステムや制度、法を試行錯誤し作り出してきましたが、最も重要でありながら困難なのが人々を導く者を育てることです。帝理事長が目指しておられるのは単なる帝王学ではありません。多角化し複雑化されたトワイライトエイジの限界を打破し、人類を新たなステージに引き上げるインシグニアたり得る人間を作り上げることです。
Whoops, I appear to have a cut on my finger that I have no idea where the fuck it came from. The fuck?
私たちにできるでしょうか？なんだか途方もない話で。
あなたたちにはふさわしい資格があります。だからこそスクールは迎え入れたのです。自らを信じ誇りなさい。スクールはまだ歴史が浅く始まったばかりです。あなたはその記念すべき最初の卒業生になるでしょう。
はい、そうなれるよう学びます。
ところでおとなしさん、一つ質問を構いませんか？
何でしょうか？
男は好きですか？
申し訳ありません。少し幻聴が聞こえて取り乱してしまいました。
それはよくありませんね。あなたはエトワールのインシグニア、人々の藩の藩たるべきものです。疲労が溜まっているようなら後で私の部屋に来なさい。
いえ、それには及びません。ところで時野先生、先ほど何か質問があるとおっしゃっていたような気がしますが。
ええ、まあ私としたことが質問するとしてもいささか短絡的すぎたかもしれません。言葉を選んで尋ねますが、男性に興味はありますか？
Saku squinted without even realizing it.
先生？
恥じる必要はありません。年頃の男女が異性に興味を抱かないというのはむしろ不自然なことでしょう。
いえ、しかし
生徒は人間を人間たらしめる一側面です。一人前の成人であればやがて性を通じて異性を迎え入れ、家族というコミュニティを形成し社会の一員になるのが必然です。私は必ずしもそうではない選択を否定はしませんが、長期的に見れば結婚と家族の崩壊は少子化など多数の問題を社会にもたらします。やはり主として与えられている役割については 留意すべき点があるとしなければならないでしょう。違いますか？
いいえ、おっしゃる通りです。
男性に興味はありますか？
でも先生、それは
生物としてあるべき姿には何ら恥じるところなどないのです。性によって人類は時代を築き、文明を築き、この惑星の支配者として君臨できました。違いますか？
おっしゃる通りです。
She's gonna ask again.
では興味はありますか？
それはおそらく人並みには。
好みのタイプなど。
さあ、そういうものを意識したことは？
普段他のクラウンとそのような話題は？
しなくもありませんが、率先しては。先生、これは何の質問なのでしょう？
ただの確認です。気にする必要はありません。万一ステディな関係になった場合、どのような行動を取るべきか知っていますか？
ステディ？
口づけをして愛撫などを行い、その次という
What the fuck is going on?
時の先生、何か隠しておいででしょうか
Unable to bear it any longer, Saku glared at her. However, her teacher simply looked away in
別に何
response.
も隠してなどおりませんとも。
Sorry, like I'm very itchy. Problem is, I wanted to take a shower earlier today, but turns out that literally everyone in my fucking family has taken a shower before me. And on top of it, it seems our heater is causing issues again. So, while like my older brother was the one who took a shower before me, and he already complained about the water being fucking ice cold. So basically, I couldn't take a shower. So now I have to wait until tomorrow and hope the fucking heater stops being a bitch. Because it's fucking winter, I'm not taking an ice cold shower. I'm not that suicidal.
先生、私の顔を見ておっしゃってください。
Unable to bear the atmosphere, which was as rigid as a Siberian blizzard, Tokino confessed.
実は明日、天下はノーブルスクールに新しく。
That moment, there was a sudden impact. The car skidded off the road. They tried to dodge the people who jumped on the road and went on to hit a guardrail. Because they hadn't been speeding, and due to its strength as a German car, it wasn't all that damaged. But the situation was far worse than a mere accident. I like how they had to point it out, like, you know, yeah, sure, they weren't speeding, but it's a fucking German car. Those motherfuckers can survive nuclear wars. I don't know what that was just now. What the fuck? An armed group surrounded the car. The silhouettes that had jumped out onto the road were a trap meant to stop it. Amidst the group, there was a man wearing an alien mask. It was almost a meter in vertical length. The leader-like figure stuck his gun against the car's back door.
スクールの関係者だな。アンチハローメンだ。おとなしく車外に出ろ。さもなければ全員射殺する。
待ちなさい、おとなしさん。あなたが行く必要はありません。
Saku had placed her hand on the door, but Tokino stopped her like the teacher she was.
いいえ、連中の目的はきっと私だけです。先生まで危険にさらすことはできません。
しかし、あなたは大...
Saku walked out without hesitation. Like piranhas swarming a piece of meat, the armed group wearing monstrous rubber masks surrounded her. Saku glared at the alien man without a hint of fear in her eyes. The straightforward gaze carried an intense will, making the men back away, like a monster made aware that it would die in the sun. The rubber mask was the only reason why his comrades didn't see his moment of pathetic weakness. To dispel the shame from his fear, he put on a front of bravery.
貴様、クラウンの一人か。これほどの獲物がかかるとは。諸君、これは幸運ではない。我々の活動と正常化の論理的正当性がまさに実証されたことを意味するのだ。
Okay, it's probably the Halo is what they call like people with special abilities, like fucking fangirl that was shooting like wind spears. as far as I know, I understood. And these are the typical purists, like, humanity must not develop these powers, murder them all.
行きなし行きなし。
先生と運転手は普通の方です。あなたたちの目的は私だけのはず。二人への手出しは許しません。
ナンセンスナンセンス。
そいつらは反逆者だ。愚昧なる非人類的自由主義者。
啓発せよ啓発せよ。
魔女め、貴様は罪深いが、貴様に味方する裏切り者はなおさら罪深い。連行し人類法廷にて裁判を行う。
ゲスな。
地球を汚す忌まわしき化け物が人類じみた顔で言語を話すな。だがそれも今のうちだけだ。自己啓発でふさわしい口の利き方を学ぶことになるだろう。
Leader's words that their unexpected catch made the group raise their weapons and cheer. Suddenly,
何をしているのかね。
a proud voice reached them.
なんだお前ら。
These CGs are really good. Also, the main character looks like a smug asshole, and I adore that. A man wearing an alien mask looked at Hishia and like... a man wearing an alien mask looked at Hishia and I like he'd caught sight of a ghost. His actions were bold, but he seemed extremely lacking in spirit and energy. Perhaps his careful nature was worthy of praise. In this world, it was impossible for a mere passerby to have a taste for murder.
この場を離れて逃げてください。彼らは。
余計な口を開くな。
The alien man said that and tried to silence the hostage by pushing the gun into her throat. I was moved by the man's sloppy work, but the appearance of the girl he aimed at. The knowledge felt on the inside, but despite the fact that her life was entirely in his hands, she didn't change her expression at all. Didn't even have to say a word about her outside appearance. Delicate hair which faintly shined under the moonlight, her strong eyes which hid a burning will, her lovely cherry-like pursed lips. The most praiseworthy thing at present wasn't her outside beauty, but the way she carried herself. Her will didn't break before this unjust treatment. Her arrogance didn't shake before death. Her bride let her spare care for me, someone she did not know at all. If I had to compare her to something, I'd say a sword. A beautiful strong sword, not one forged by human hands, but a blade bestowed to humankind by beings of myth. Though captured, she stood proud and glared at the agents of violence around her, made her look like a born queen. I couldn't waste too much time being charmed by her, though. I had to attempt to take care of this peacefully.
何をしているのかねと尋ねたのだが、それとも君たちには日本語が通じないのかね。
Spread my arms out to empathize. I was unarmed. I attempted to soften the armed and dangerous group's attitude towards the very common sight of a passing master and his maid. It was best to settle things as peacefully and smoothly as possible. I'd just gotten to this country and I didn't want to make a scene that early.
日本語の会話が難しいのであれば、英語でもドイツ語でもフランス語でもイタリア語でもスペイン語でも私は構わないが。
ご主人様、あの方々が反政府ゲリラではなく国産ギャング的職業者である場合、専門用語を使われるのがよろしいのではと。
本場の専門用語か。となると茨城言語か南橋弁か、九州は修羅の国の少数民族言語か。私もそちらへの造形は疎い。少々困ったところだ。
イシアも日本の業界用専門言語はまだお勉強中です。
珍しく不始末だな。
まさかのっけからこのような事態になろうとは。イシア、失敗いたしました。
Kisha bowed to me at the armed group, still not understanding a word we were saying, remained frozen in place. Of course, that wasn't a big problem for me.
それではボディーランゲージといこう。何？真心と信念があれば言うべきことは通じ合えるものだろう。
ナイスアンカと。さすがはご主人様。
We turned back to the group, and the alien man gave us the most simple expression of his will.
うせろ
He aimed the AK-47's barrel right at me. Its design was old, its potential for murder was far greater than any normal handgun. Could fire 600 bullets per minute and at an initial velocity of 700 meters per second, traveling at almost twice the speed of sound. The 7.56mm bullets could pierce not only humans, but concrete blocks as
お
well.
前のような低能な反人類分子がいるから我々の活動と正常化が完了する日は遠いのだだが我々は敗北しないこの意志と正義が必ずや時代の鉄槌となる
鉄槌鉄槌
Whether angry or just plain slightly displeased, the alien man voiced his grievances and frustration while pointing his tool of violence at me. The armed group, wearing the vicious masks, was 6 strong.
ご主人
Whoops.
様大ピンチです
They all had their guns pointed at me, showing just how friendly they were. The men looked away from the hostage, but they were grinning like they had the situation under control. It was only obvious. This was in the middle of nowhere. The hostage couldn't run from a group of 6 armed with automatic rifles. They could shoot her dead and turn her into mush before she got even 10 meters
我
away.
々は忙しいお前たちのような鈍強な連中と関わり合ってる時間が惜しい闘争の意味を理解せぬ反人類主義者め今すぐ回れ右して市内へまっすぐ歩いていけ我々は無駄な手間が省ける
自己啓発せよ自己啓発せよ
その前に質問に答えてくれないだろうか私は何をしているのかと尋ねたのだが
While I acted like the situation meant nothing to me, the alien man's victorious expression turned more vile. Couldn't see it through the mask, but that was probably the case.
返事がないということはどうやら会話の成立しない輩であるようだ
リシアが考察しますにご主人様の言動にお怒りになっておられるのでは
だとすればなんとも心の狭い御人だな数に任せて乙女を取り囲む卑しい男にはふさわしいな
You can almost feel the alien man's face twitch. People all over the world get upset when someone points out harsh truths to them.
ああいいぜくれてやるよ今すぐ脳書をぶちまけやがれ
The alien man thrust his gun barrel towards my forehead and, displaying a tyrant's shallowness instead of a true noble's mentality, chose to focus his strength on his finger rather than his smile.
諸君命を奪う罪を知っているか
The moment took even less than a second. The man and his comrades were shaken, displaying some truly humane fragility. In human society, hurting others meant accepting personal suffering. Faced with a moment that when they would have to do that, their guns shivered. And that hesitation decided their future. Using my left hand, I threw the gun from below. The alien man was too surprised to even pull the trigger. His current pose almost made it seem like he was cheering. Control the change. That was one truth I had arrived at over the last 7 years, and it was the one decisive law that controlled this beautiful world. I ran between the armed men. My speed made it look like I was flying. No one among them could react. Right lunge, a left kick, a left chop, a right kick, and one after the other they all fell. 4 of them were down at the blink of an eye. They passed out when I hit them in the weak spots pointed out in Indian yoga. You could tell by the way that they had held their weapons, but the armed group was extremely lacking in training. They'd been so worried about fighting this battle that they got too close to each other. I should have left at least one of them further back. The 2 remaining men had enough time to aim their weapons, but not enough to pull the triggers.
粛清粛清
He closed the 3-meter gaps in one step, threw his weapons up, and shoved my right elbow into the weak point in his chest. It was a technique called the arrow, often considered to be similar to one of the Chinese 8 extremities fist. Mine, however, had been taught to me by my mentor and had a bit of my personal touch in it. Most ancient martial arts had lost their true meaning over time and had become little more than street performances. However, if you looked hard enough, you could find some actually effective techniques, such as this one. The Wolfman fainted while standing, collapsed. Just 2 breaths. Only one. The Centipede Man remained. However, there was distance between me and him. was only 3 steps away, which meant...
Success!
Wouldn't make it. The distance gave him enough time to instinctively aim and fire at me. The man put strength into his trigger finger, intense fear and anger painted on his face. The battle ended right then. He must have failed to notice it before he collapsed. The rifle used by the wolfman fell in his armed hands from above. When I threw it out of the wolfman's hand, I made sure it sailed directly towards the centipede man. Centipede mask lowered his vision and worked against him. Though in his darkness, he probably couldn't have seen it, even if his face was bare. The impact and pain almost made him drop his weapon, but by the time he recovered, I was already in front of him.
この夜にふさわしい良い夢を見たまえ。
As I took care of the last of them, Ishia approached me. A maid had to follow her master after all.
やってしまわれたのですね、ご主人様。皆さん、アーメン。安らかにお眠りください。
She made the sign that across to the 6 people lying on the
人
ground.
聞きの悪いにも程がある。彼らは混沌しているだけだ。
そうでしたか。イシア、少々残念です。
Ishia was a capable maid, but she was lacking in common sense. As one who had it, I was often troubled by that fact. None of y'all have common sense. Let's
こ
be
の国は
honest.
法治国家だ。手抜きはあるが、深夜に一人でコンビニへ買い物に行けるほどにね。命を奪えば、凶悪犯罪行為として非常に厄介な結果を生むのだよ。
承知しました。イシア、犯罪行為をする場合は、厄介な結果にならないよう。さすがだ、ヒシア。
Legendary man who ruined 3 casinos in Las Vegas had once said these wonderful words. It's not cheating if they don't find out. Thus, rural silence returned to the area, though there was no way to hide the evidence of this incident, like the armed group or the car sticking out of the road.
しかし、都市部とはいえ、22時以降に開いている店があるのは超異常という気分でしたが、それはこの国独特のオカルティックな風習に依拠するものだったのですね。
この国は見えない場のエアなるものを読み取る特殊な力を全国民が要求される異常なマジカル国家ではあるが、君が言うのは風習ではなく治安の問題だ。もっとも自動小銃を抱えたギャングが都市部近郊を闊歩する程度には自慢の治安も衰退してしまったようではあるが。
ご主人様、ここに来る途中、コンビニ前でご老人の引いてた屋台で購入した地域名産タッキーの焼き餅は思いのほか美味で、イシア感激です。
次女が買い食い立ち食いとはいささかはしたないのではないかね。
申し訳ありません、ご主人様。ヒシアは食えるべき時に食えと幼い頃からしつけられておりましたので。
She apologized to me by raising her skirt a little and bowing slightly. Very proper action. Being the well-trained maid she was, Ishia was absolutely perfect in the English-style expressions of courtesy.
君のご両親は正しい教育をなされたようだ。
こしあんを餅で包むのはジャパニーズケーキとしてベーシックですが、小判あんのように薄くしてから両面を焼くのが特徴のようです。元は君主の御用菓子だったとか。薄焼きなので濃い甘みが残らず、焼いた風味と合わさって一口サイズでさらりと食べやすいところがオツですね。あん、抹茶、黒ごまと3点セットでしたが、この中だと抹茶の苦味とあんのコラボレーションがなかなか。後口を引かないのがよろしいので、ヒシア、明日のお茶受けにしようと思います。
では一ついただこうか。
Took one of the yakimochi from her paper bag and put it in my mouth. It turns out sweets were all wrapped individually.
疲労した脳にはやはり甘みが良い。焦げの独特の食感はやはりワイルドで良いものだ。私としては酒の一つも欲しくなるところだな。
I like this man already.
甘いものに酒とは、ご主人様の趣味も最悪ですが、ヒシアの調査によれば、地元名手でホースになる銘柄がさっぱりした味でよろしいそうです。
では 名酒の味わいはいずれの楽しみにするとして、まずは挨拶を済ませよう。窮地より救った名も知らぬ我らが友人に。
I joyously turned around. New scene has been added to gallery. Wait, are they just gonna cut it off there? What the fuck? Hello? Huh. Scenario select. Prologue, Moon Halo. The fuck is Moon Halo? Oh, it's probably the start thing. Oh well. Set be noble. With the words etched into the school's emblem hanging on the wall, a bit above the sofa they were sitting on. The image was based around the character for heaven, and it was the symbol of Tenkawa Noble Academy. This was the living room set up for these girls. The crowns. The modern building had none of the simple characteristics of the usual school dorm. It was both fancy and refined. This clearly expensive dorm was the living space of a mere 5 girls. They were the Twelves, top students among the 200 who attended the school. The students and teachers called them crowns with respect and fear. They were the 5 closest to the true meaning of the school's goal, nobility. There were 4 girls sitting around the table. All of them sat with the same cup filled with freshly made tea in front of them.
それにしてもサクのやつ遅くね。
One was a girl who had her hair in a side tail. Her eyes were fierce, and her body was both rough and graceful. She'd barely been lying down on the sofa, but that didn't stop her from radiating vigor. Tamao Akahito lightly waved her hand over the table to control an info layer. She was wearing a mandatory contact lens reality interface that she used to access AR and see certain information. It was 11 at night. The air conditioning was optimal. There was enough light, so it made it easy to forget that it was completely dark outside. Contrary to what you'd expect from its old-fashioned motto, this school had connections to various corporations that had provided it with the newest experimental technology. To Tomo, who was born in a rural area with no internet, this was pure sci-fi.
サクはクラウンのインシグニアですから、外に出ることも仕方ないです。主に体力担当と違って。
俺は難しいこと苦手ですよ。
The second girl, Eru Takazaki, was the youngest among the crowns, from posture and lack of expression. It looked like a thin blade. Ah! The clear onyx-like eyes never wavered. She was no machine, though. She cried and laughed like anyone else, but it was a fact that none of the others had seen her roll around in laughter. Sako Tanashi, who had left with Tokyo no Yomise, she returned before dinner, so something seemed to be keeping her. Tamo yawned and crossed her legs. She'd really enjoyed such unladylike relaxation. With Sako being so well-mannered, she hesitated to even hunch in her presence, so this was a rare chance to unwind. Tamo didn't handle formalities, so hit her knees with her fan.
Noble Tare.
It was the third girl, the Japanese doll-looking Mitori. Her visage was very traditional. It was hard to say whether Japanese clothing would suit her. She had a quite glorious bosom after all.
どんな時にも自らを律するノーブルたらんことをですわよ。
せっかくサクも先生もいねえのに、ミトリ最近サクの小言が移ってきたんじゃねえの？
移るまでもありませんわよ。私、なすべき時になさぬのは見逃せない性分ですから。
今夜ぐらいあまり厳しいことは言わないであげよう。玉緒ちゃん、堅苦しいのが苦手だから。
Sorry. Fourth girl, the blonde Sorako Katsuragi, asked Mitri to take it easy. She was notable for her non-Japanese face and long legs. Like some would guess from her blonde hair, she had English blood running through her veins.
そうは参りませんわ。音無さんがいない時にこそ普段以上にしっかりしなければクラウンの保険にも関わりますもの。
そんなの誰も見てねえっつーの。
玉尾は外側メッキ状態です。ノーブルは遠い。
お前はいつも一言多いよ。
いいじゃない。せっかくのお茶会なんだし。
桂木さんはいつも甘すぎですわよ。
No matter how uptight Mitri was, this was clearly a time for relaxation. The only reason they could have a tea party so late was because the notorious strict fifth girl, Saku, wasn't present. It was way past the time to turn off the lights and go to their rooms.
自分、サクの味方ですので。
告げ口すんなよ。
今夜は特別に、このジャンドゥーヤ一つで買収されます。
Eru took one of Tomo's candies and threw it in her mouth. She'd eaten her own already.
美味しく甘いです。
Gianduja was an Italian mix of hazelnut paste and chocolate. It was set up and created when there was a shortage of chocolate when the country was under Napoleon's
お
rule.
前こういう時だけ素早いのな。
そういえば面白い噂を聞きましたわ。
Mitri hid her mouth with her fan and looked over at her noisy friends. Her expression intrigued everyone. They looked at her with interest.
噂ってと？
それって、あの話かな。では、知り上がらないのは、玉尾ザパワーだけですね。
Did you just fucking call her Tomo the Power? It's like...
では、知り上がらないのは、玉尾ザパワーだけですね。
She just called her Tomo the Power. Didn't know she was an angel. Jokes.
マジでなんで？おい、ソラコ噂ってなんだよ。
また来るんだって。でも、今度はエトワールだって。
なんですの？エトワールですって？
ミトリ、知っていたのでは？
小耳に挟んだだけですもの。まさか、エトワールとは。
実は、エトワールというのは自分も初めて知りました。ソラコ、今の話はかなりマジですか？
Their expression turned grim. A new étoile that meant a lot to them.
だから噂だよ。でも、それによると。
New scene has been added to the gallery.
あなたはまさか成田真理？
After taking care of the armed group, I walked over to the hostages. But suddenly, someone from the car called out to me. That was unexpected, since I hadn't been in Japan in 7 years. I didn't know anyone here, and I didn't think that anyone from back then would have recognized me after I'd changed so much. A stern beauty akin to a glacier from the pole stepped out of the car. Tokino Yomise.
はじめまして、成田さん。私は夜店時のスクールの職員です。あなたと会える日を楽しみにしていました。
なるほど。スクールには私の資料が届いているはずだ。顔がわかるのも当然か。では、改めて挨拶しよう。はじめまして、時の女子。成田真理だ。あなたの名前は事前に受け取った案内で見た覚えがあるのだが、私の担当だという理解でいいのかね？
ねえ、そうなります。夜が明けてからのことですが、こんな場所とこんな状況で出会えるとは思いませんでした。
Oops.
時野先生、彼をご存知なんですか？
The brave girl from before hesitantly spoke to Miss Tokino.
ええ、あなたには先ほど話し損ねましたが、彼は成田真理、転校生です。そして彼のグレードはエトワール級、つまり6人目のクラウンということでもあります。
That revelation perplexed the girl, considering the fact she didn't waver before death. That must have been a serious matter.
そんな6人目なんて、それも男性がでなんて、そんなのまさか。
何をもってまさかなのですか、音無作。 正の概念にとらわれているようではノーブルへの道は遠いですよ。これまでエトワール級 HMI は女性ばかりでしたが、それが特定の因果的原因による事故だとは証明されたわけではありません。である以上、確率的にはいつであれ男性のエトワールが出現してもおかしくはなかった。
それはそうですけど。
She was exactly like I'd expected her to be. She recomposed herself, faced me, gained her courteous form without a flaw.
先ほどはありがとうございました、成田真理。あなたに救っていただいた感謝はとても言葉では言い尽くせるものではありません。私は音無作、あなたの入学するスクールのエトワールの一人です。
I was charmed. She straightened her back as if it came naturally. Not alone was eye-catching, it made me feel like the air around us had changed. People's beauty couldn't be gauged by mere numbers and shapes. True beauty was in the way they lived, the invisible things peeking outside. Étoile meant star, so Tonashi was more than qualified for the title. Beauty made me bow and kneel like a knight before a great queen. I just said it, like, what the fuck is he doing? Surprised by my action, she tried to back away. To dispel her worries with graceful movements, I took her pale hand.
成田真理だ。音無作。
Kissed the back of her hand. It was a kiss of gratitude and respect.
成田真理
No matter what the situation, no matter how desperate it all seemed, true valuable things always deserve respect. As a transfer student, starting tomorrow, I would share classes with her and spend my days alongside her. I was truly grateful that I'd found a light as bright as her. No matter how much I thanked, it didn't seem like enough. How could I express my passion, this passion within me? Knitting with my black hair that reflected the moonlight, her moist eyes that hid trouble, and an unwavering will, her level of refinement and transience as she stood before death. And then, the brightest point of all.
美しいその豊満なる胸が
You gotta respect his honesty, at least, I guess. Like an ancient sinner who had been thrown to hell from one step away from heaven, Saku's face suddenly strained. Apparently my words weren't enough to express my excitement. Miracles exceeding that of a voluptuous chest were few and far between. They were a manifestation of the female gender in life, a symbol of abundance and peace. They were a treasure no man could have. To properly express the burning feelings within me, I chose my words carefully.
サクのその麗しき美巨乳が
Okay, please prepare for the bonk. Jesus fucking Christ. Don't mess around with the stick.
医師や思いますが、ドン引きされているのでは。
愛も怒りも思うだけでどうして伝わるのだね。心情とは言葉に乗せて初めて伝わり、相手の心に届き形をなすのだよ。
ジャパニーズ言霊でございますね。医師やご主人様の持論には全く同感ですが、世の中には伝えていいものと悪いものがあるのです。
つつましさの美徳。なるほど、一理あるが、私としてはこの感動ばかりは声に出さないという選択はないのだ。
承知いたしました。では今からヒシアは他人ということでお願いします。
So I approached Shine. The fuck is this? Knead them boldly, knead them thoroughly with deep reverence, knead them without restraint, for I cannot hold myself back. I like how it doesn't even give you a choice of just not going for the titty. It's just, yes. You will grope them and you will like them. And knead them boldly, I guess. and caress it as if shaking hands. The man says balls at least. You cannot say that he's a coward. For the light of truth, people are powerless. Sight alone is enough. It isn't enough. You must also check it by touch.
素晴らしい。張りがあり、弾力があり、重力に逆らう強さがある。これぞ至高の一品と断ずるに何のためらいもない。
Wow, the bag actually survived. Intriguing. She raised her leg up high and brought it down on me at a 90-degree angle. So taken in by the sight that I couldn't evade it. What an excellent vertical downward whirlwind kick. In honor of the stocking, I decided to name it Beautiful Black Whirlwind which carries death. She's fucking on. He's just fucking on the ground, passed out immediately. Just like a fucking wet noodle, just on the ground. The sky. What a beautiful moon. Oh, my consciousness faded due to her precise blow.
石屋、すまない。私はここまでのようだ。
ご主人様、傷は深いですがしっかり。死因がセクハラとか生まれ変わってやり直せという感じですが、ご主人様。
志半ばに果てるこの無念。だが良い人生だった。至高の胸と出会えたこの喜びを持って私は地獄へ赴こう。
ご主人様、ご主人様。
時の先生、
何ですか？
先ほどの発言訂正します。男に興味なんてありません。最低、死ねばいいのに。
ままならないものですね。
He's just like, I guess I can see where you're coming from. A hazy moon hung in the night sky. The sphere's outline became unclear, creating an angelic halo. The lunar halo, the icy crystal born in the thin clouds. The tranquil, isolated sky blown with supreme, beautiful clarity, despite not competing with anything.
我が生涯に一片の悔いなし。
ハローレディー、カン。
Well, that's been the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Opening time. Nice soundtrack. Also, Is he just gonna go for every pair of tits he fucking sees? The Battle Among the Roses. Part 2, by the way. It was a world made of white and glass. Well, there was a flashy, futuristic structure reminiscent of a windowed building meant to symbolize a bright future. Its name was Tenkawa Noble Academy, and beyond the gate, an educational facility lorded over the landscape.
長いので、スクールで構わないと思います。ヒシア、ナイスアイデアです。とても効率的。
Hishia talked to herself a lot. She'd grown up in an environment where her only companion was an imaginary friend named Mefendi. Oh, talking is hard. The academy was in a hilly area about 10 kilometers away from Okushima. As an educational facility, it had a thorough quality over quantity approach. It only opened a few years ago, sure, but despite covering a whole 8 years of education, it had about 200 students. For a private school focused on profit, that wasn't a manageable number. However, from what Hishia could see, the school could afford whatever it wanted. All of its students lived in assigned dorms. The vast territory it boasted, despite its low student count, was covered by tall walls, making it seem like a fortress ready for any enemies. Students almost never left the walls. That was the reason why almost none of the locals even knew it was a school. The school had no introductory website or pamphlets. The ones who knew it were few and far between.
来たようだな。
After a short wait, Hishia's master, presumably Narita, said those
いよいよ
words.
ですね、成田様。
Hishia muttered those words in her heart. Romanticist's hallway. You'd never expect from the modern look. If you ignored the ceiling, it was even wide enough. It was even wide enough for the style. The chic construction was reminiscent of historical medieval Europe buildings. Upon passing the gate, the plaza, and the door to the school, Hishia and I were greeted by this hallway and...
待っていました、成田真理。
Saku Otonashi. I had no idea why, but it seemed like she was avoiding eye contact.
どうやら奥ゆかしい彼女は昨夜完璧な礼を尽くした私と目を合わせるのさえ恥じらっているようだね。
ヒシア、あれはスリッパで踏みつぶした G の死骸を眺める時の吐き捨てるような眼差しではないかと思いますが。
音無作、君が出迎えてくれるとは意外だ。
私も慎んでまっぴらごめんだと言いたいところですが、時の先生の指示で私がエスコートパートナーに指名されてしまったので、本当に残念ながら。成田真理、あなたがスクールでの暮らしになれるまで、私、音無作がエスコートを務めます。わからないことがあれば何でも相談してください。
Should have specified want to know about the school. He's about to ask something more personal, I feel. Perfection. She had her bashfulness and lightly bowed flawlessly.
まず教室へ案内します。
Or not. Where is
つい
he?
てきてください。
そうさせてもらおう。
As I followed her, she suddenly jumped the whole 5 meters backwards. Powerful legs were reminiscent of Thompson's gazelles. She then glared at me like she was about to curse her parents' enemies to death.
見事な跳躍だ。足元に地雷でもあったのかね。
半径3メートル以内に近づいたら銃殺します。
Would have been rude to ask if she had a gun. She was absolutely serious, which only made me more perplexed.
君がエスコートしてくれるという話をたった今聞かされたように思うのだが。
でも近づいたら殺す。
シア、よくわからないが、これはあれかね。何か高度に哲学的な全クエスチョンだろうか。
ヒシアとしてはここへ来るまで今時ノーブルとかぶっちゃけドン引きだよねという気分でしたが、音無様は意外に素直な方のようなので 交換ポイント爆上げ中です。
ヒシアのスキルが羨ましいものだ。私への交換ポイントは何点なんだろう。彼女は奥ゆかしすぎて感情表現が分かりにくい。
ドキンガンなのですね、ご主人様。
ところで成田、
After thinking thoroughly, she decided to call me by my first name.
ここからは学生のみです。
We had a non-student among us. Mori Hishia, my loyal, skilled
ヒシ
maid.
ア、教室へ行くことになった。今日から私の立場はこのスクールの学生だ。
それは DT です。
一般的でない語彙も増えてきたようだ。何やら用法が適切でない気もするが。
Hishia thought for a moment, then corrected
そ
herself.
れは頂上でございます。
もう少し日本語の研究が必要だな。
はい。ズル向けのご主人様に DT などとあらぬ疑いのかかる発言をしてしまいました。ヒシア、お詫びいたします。
Slowly nodded while Sokka glared at me like I was some sort of
本
insect.
日から私は学生寮で生活する。
承知しております。
I remembered something I had to confirm and faced a beautiful girl who was still upset for reasons I couldn't quite understand.
自助同伴の寮生というのはありだろうか。
そんなものはない。
She shot me down in an instant. That was what it meant to have nowhere to return to.
ということらしい、ヒシア。どうやら今朝の作は生理的にご機嫌が斜めのようだね。
もう手遅れというか全面的にアウトっぽいですが、まあ苦労するのはご主人様なのでよしとしましょう。それではご主人様、しばしのお別れでございます。ご心配なく、リシアはせいぜい羽を伸ばすことにしますので。
正直一抹の不安は拭いきれない。私一人で果たして文化的な生活を維持できるものか。
ご主人様が電波なのは育った環境の過酷さゆえですので、まあしゃあねえなと諦めるのが寛容です。ありふれた世界で埋もれて生きるのも一つの試練。
Whoops. Hishia gave me a full smile, then soothed my soul with a gentle wave as she departed. She'd come to serve me because of a certain twist of fate.
こういうことわざがございます。文化がないなら木の根をかじればいいじゃない。人間は木の根をかじってでも生き抜くことができます。夢も尊厳もなくとも生きるだけは叶うもの。まして揺るぎない意志を持っているならば、進むべき道の開かれぬ理由のあろうはずがありません。
Shinri Narita had a promise to fulfill. The stage he aimed for was distant. But the feeling in his heart was true and clear all the same. Thus he would push forward. No matter how harsh the road would be, he would never stop.
成田様は必ずやたどり着かれることでしょう。
君は完璧なメイドだな、ヒシア森。
そろそろ行きます。
Unable to take more of our conversation, Sokka walked on ahead, fixed my posture, and Hishia fixed a messy spot on my uniform. The bell signaling the start of class rang out at that very moment.
本当に長かったな。
ここは成田様が望まれた約束の地。一切の慈悲なく、微塵も容赦なく、さまつに心煩わされることなく、行くべきところへ行き、なすべきことをなされますよ。
これより先は人海の哀れ、人の心なる者たちよ。さらば。
Hishia gave me a perfect English
いってらっしゃ
bow.
いませ。どうかお心のままに。お帰りまでにはインド式自助術をマスターしておきます。
She turned around and went where she had to, without even looking back at me. The night of the failed kidnapping had passed. I had arrived at the academy. I, Shinri Narita, was a transfer student. Starting today, I would join the school and live out my youth while immersing myself in education. Honestly, I was hesitant. What I've until now had been void of school. Do not fear change. Those golden words gave me the push I needed. If you found relief in that familiar, consumed peace, drowned in the now, despised the unknown, hated turbulence, and forgot to seek dreams, life was worthless. With that in mind, puff out your chest. Fear not. Don't stop. Challenge this new life. Challenge this new change. Life in school. After seeing Narita off, Hishia left the hallway. When she reached the main gate, she once again turned to the academy. From where she was, she had a good view of the large forest within the school area. She boldly took out a pair of glasses from her pouch and put them on. She looked around, checking the school's front and examining all the minute details. Graceful, breathtaking beauty. It was an art piece born out of modernity and technology. It had no weight of history around it, but it was far better constructed than the old European buildings she'd seen many times. She took the glasses off and carefully placed them in a pocket.
こう一句読みたくなる景色です。見た目というものは一番の嘘であるかもしれない。世間というやつはいつも虚飾に欺かれるから。昨夜助けられたのを醜態と受け取った夜店教諭がご主人様の口を塞ぐために罠にかけたり毒殺を図ったりする可能性は考慮すべきでしょうか。
The master like hers, that didn't seem unlikely. And it wasn't at all impossible for him to just drink such poison by accident, so perhaps she had to warn him. He would walk a thorny path. Some mistake would ruin it all. In fact, he was in a situation where he had to do everything perfectly, no matter how slight.
医師や見回しますが、見れば見るほど大層なところ。
Whoops.
医師や見回しますが、見れば見るほど大層なところです。できることならこの中をじっくりゆっくりと歩き回ってみたいものですが。
Alas, as an outsider, she could only act around the main gate. As she walked away, she looked back at the school once more and thought of her master.
成田様、どうかご武運を。
その成田くん。
Hearing my name made me stop my train of thought. Saka was leading me through the hallways. It was such a long walk that I questioned the design of the place.
昨日助けてもらったことは一応感謝しています。あなたが現れなければ私たちはひどく望ましくない状況に陥っていたでしょうから。
感謝されるようなことはしていないよ。私は自らの意志に基づいてなすべきことをなしただけだ。目の前で窮地に陥る者がいるとする。間近で理不尽に苦しむ者がいるとする。手を差し伸べるのに理由が必要なのかね。
Spoke the obvious, though saying it felt
そ
embarrassing.
れは成田くん。
ようやく今朝からのぎこちなさが消えたようだ。そう。これからもそのように私を呼んでくれたまえ。おとなしさく。君の声は耳にとても心よい。
あなた何をいきなり。
思ったところを正直に述べたまでだが、何か疑問点があるのかね。
だからそうじゃなくて。
Saka was so perplexed that it felt odd. Perhaps ancient wisdom was correct. Woman's heart was a deep labyrinth, too difficult even for me.
成田くん、あなたは昨夜も思ったけれど、とても変わってる。
自覚はないのだが、なぜかよく言われる。不思議なことだね。
ありていに言うと、偉そうだとか、態度が大きいとか言われると。
さすがはスクールのインシグニア。軽眼だ。
No, I really was grand, so hearing people tell me that I was grandiose meant nothing to me. However, Saku's words made a question float to the forefront of my mind.
もしかするとだが、私の態度はあまり学生的ではないのだろうか。
まあ、言葉を選んで言うと、とても個性的ですね、とは思います。
私は生まれは日本だが、海外生活が長かった。
言葉遣いや態度はそのせいだと？
いや、それは全く別の理由だ。
さっきの前振り、何だったの？
私を育てた男は人を人とも思わぬ変わり者でね。私は長らくあの下道目に囚われも同然の身の上だった。とっくにくたばっているのでせいせいするのだが、今頃は地獄で偉そうに幅を利かせているかと思うと それも腹立たしい。
He was a wonderful person of whom I had no good memories, which made looking back at them quite annoying. We lived in a distant foreign country, and though I was basically his prisoner for the few years I spent with him, it did make me strong and bold. I could even thank him for that.
なるほど。この親にしてこの子ありと。
婉曲な言い回しは不要だ。はっきりと育ての親がクズだったのね。成田様かわいそう萌えと言いたまえ。私も全面的に同意しよう。
これっぽっちも言ってない。
ことわざ的にはまさにトンビがフェニックスを生んだ。
まあどう適切なのか分かりたくもないですが、そういうものだと納得するのはやぶさかではありません。これ以上は面倒だし。
She placed her hand on her forehead and sighed. I was glad we'd come to an understanding.
音無し作、君は思いのほか率直な人物らしい。もちろんその逆であるよりも私にとってははるかに好ましい。
あなたは正直に言ってよくわからない人だわ。はっきりと言うなら変わり者の多いこのスクールでも特に風変わりな部類に入るほどね。
ところで早速だが質問をいいかね。
I've been looking for a chance to ask them.
昨夜の連中、君たちを襲撃した武装ギャングどもはあれからどうなったのかね。
Though the AK-47 was easy enough to acquire, a group armed with them couldn't be just a bunch of common criminals. As far as I knew, this country was so absurdly peaceful that an armed kidnapping would be on the front page of every newspaper. However, I checked before coming here and found nothing about it in any media. They weren't questioned by the police either. Miss Tokino had said that she would explain everything in our stead. We'd been released just like that. I wasn't right. This was the countryside. It was believed that this country's law enforcement organizations... It was unbelievable that this country's law enforcement organizations would be so careless.
スクールが関わっている事件は基本的に表沙汰にならないで処理されます。
不祥事を隠しておくのが日本流ということかね。この小さな学園がそれほどの影響力を持っているというのも腑に落ちない話だが。
Saka made a face that seemed to display confusion. It's probably the expression of an adult would make when asked why apples were red.
表沙汰にされないのはまだ当分はスクールの存在とそこで行われていることを一般には隠しておく必要があるからだけど。成田くん、あなた本当に何も知らずこのスクールに来たの？
She wasn't asking me as the noble being she strived to be. That was a question from the heart. She was confused. She'd forgotten her mask.
あなたやっぱり変わってる。
学生らしくないのだろう。
そんなさまつなことじゃない。あなたは本当に何もかもおかしいのよ。普通この学園に来る学生たちはここを最後の聖域だと信じてやってくる。たとえそうでなくてもそれに近い感情を抱いている。例外はない。だってそれがこのスクールの存在する意味。それがハローを持つということだから。
Halo. I was familiar with that word when the officials testing whether I was worthy of going on to school had muttered it. The halo and its grade was a crucial factor in your ability to attend school here.
あなたもハローを持っている。それは絶対の大前提。そうでなければスクールは入学を認めない。そして時の先生によればあなたの評価はエトワール。間違いなく資質として最高級のハローを持った HMI の一人だからなおのこと信じられない。そんなあなたが何も知らずにこの学園へやってきたなんて。
そういうことなら私が一風変わり種なのも道理だろうね。この成田真理は聖域など求めてはいない。逃げてきたのではない。挑むためにここへ来たのだ。
逃げてきた？
うん、事実なのだろう。君たちは辛かった外を逃げ出して安全なここへとやってきた。何か気に障ってしまっただろうか。であるなら謝罪しよ 思ったままを述べただけで悪意はなかった。
今の発言は断じて見逃せません。取り消しなさい。
She looked at me with eyes burning with rage. Her irate demeanor made me understand something. She hated to hear the unpleasant truth, but that wasn't the main driving force behind her rage. She was mad at Jinri Narita for belittling not herself, but honor of the many nameless students who called the academy their sanctuary.
私は必要ならどんな嘘でも口にする男だ。しかし、これについて意を曲げるのは無理だ。君には嘘をつきたくない。おとなしさく。
突然何を？
いかようにも謝罪はしよう。だが、発言を取り消し、欺瞞を持って取り繕うことは、私の名誉にかけて行うわけにはいかない。
Sako Tanashi. She had the sincerity to get mad at thoughtless words and a sense of justice to stand up for the sake of others' honor. She was so bright that I almost felt like crying. It was easy to take back what I said and fake my feelings, but I didn't want to defile her nobility with my deception. Shinri Narita was both a given and something he couldn't put into words. It would leave a scar on her dignity. She heaved a long sigh and relaxed. Didn't know if she knew what I intended, but seemed to have felt my sincerity.
あなた、やっぱり変わってる。
Her mother seems even more confused than before. Like the cavalry here to save us from the slight awkwardness, a phone rang. The Saku's had the academy's emblem on it. Using it as a chance to get away from me, she took the call.
はい、おとなしです。そうです。今教室へ向かっています、時野先生。
While she talked, I had nothing to do. There was no wall behind the pillars in the hallway, so I saw something in the inner garden. I was growing bored of the gaudy hallways, which was why I let my curiosity take over and lead me beyond the pillars. The spacious garden was connected to the hallway with the large stone steps. I walked in one of them and was faced with the vibrant scenery built between the local hills, as well as an old dense forest beyond it. For a small paradise built for just 200 people, it was quite a sight. That was when I noticed a person was watching the forest from the same step as me. Black ran over white. The white was a canvas supported by an easel, while the black was a line of graphite. The thin, unwavering horizontal line was part of a sketch drawn by a pencil. He didn't even react to my presence, instead focusing entirely on his canvas. The man's handsome face was sickly pale. He couldn't have been that older than me, but it felt like I was looking at an old soul. Straightforward lines and somewhat slothful, gloomy side profile made it seem like I was looking at an aged sage who was bored of the unchanging world. However, his eyes were gleaming with youthful vigor. This contradictory yet complete existence of his seemed to be like a miracle. As I watched him from behind, he began adding more lines to the sketch. Great as I was no god. I had flaws and things I wasn't good at. Sense for art was shamefully lacking, for one. But despite that, I could tell that I was looking at a true master at work. The tip of the pencil had been cut with a knife, and his speed was such that he seemed to not have even be looking at the canvas. Precise and profound, his touch was about what you'd expect from a true artist. His plain white shirt, basic pair of pants. His apparel was rough and one you could see all over town. It would have been the uniform of the school. Sauket just told me that the academy only allowed students and employees inside. But then, who was this person? You would guess he was a student, but that didn't seem to be the case. It was a strange existence that didn't fit into this place.
絵は素晴らしいよ。失われていく一瞬が、ここでは永遠だ。
He was talking to me, but his eyes were still fixed on the canvas.
君は転校生かな？
おう、わかるのかね。
何人も見たからね。この学園には転校生が多いんだ。君と同じように夢を抱いてやってくる。
うん。各地からメガネにかなう資質の持ち主を集めながら少数精鋭を通しているわけか。ベースボール留学というやつだな。
察しがいいね。そんなところだよ。
Shinri Narita's entry involved a similar process. It was some boring event not worth talking about. My quality had caught their eyes and had been formally invited to the academy. Greatly appreciated that. Would have been lying if I said I wasn't worried, since school life was a first for me, but the unknown always excited me.
君もここの学生なのかね？
大義。
Taigi? Now, how was that relevant?
僕の名前だよ。大義。
ああ、なるほど。理解できたとも。大義。私は成田真理、転校生だ。本日よりこの学園で多くの同胞たちに混じり、共に笑い、学び、暮らすことになる。
それならいずれまた会えるだろうね。僕は少々特別でね。学生ではないが、このスクール内を出歩くことはできる。そう、訳ありなのさ。
承知した。では今後ともよろしく頼むとしよう。
さては、君は相当の変わり者だね。
何故そんなことを？
これまで来た転校生たちは、僕が訳ありだというと、全員それがどういう意味なのかを知りたがった。君はそんなものにはまるで興味がなさそうだ。
ならば大義、君が語って聞かせたくなったら私に教えてくれたまえ。
なぜだろう。君とは仲良くできそうな気がする。
Did we just become best friends?
親愛のきっかけとして一つ質問をいいだろうか。さっきから気になっていることがあるのだが。
なんなりと。
何を書いているのかね。
First I thought it was the Ginkgo forest, but that didn't seem right. Taigi casually shrugged and pointed at the forest entrance with his pencil. There, I saw a maid. She was posing with her hands joined over her skirt.
僕が書いているのは彼女だ。メイドは素晴らしいよ。清楚で深みがある。まるでよくできたワインのよさ。スカートの丈を1センチ変えればまるで別物になってしまう。
I observed her with a dilettante's eye. Maid wore a different uniform than Ishia's. It was modest, reserved, and exposed little.
悪くない。
やはり君とは仲良くできそうだ。
平坦なのが残念だ。メイドとは豊満であるべきなのだから。豊満こそ需要と生産の象徴、生命の神秘。それが足りない。あまりに足りない。
Is this gonna be the conflict between them? Like flat between titty?
残念だよ成田君。君とは分かり合えないようだ。平坦であることの意味も魅力も理解できない輩だとは思わなかったよ。
Sako must have finished talking by now. I had an unexpected meeting because of it, but it was fruitful. It was time to end my brief adventure.
もう少し話をしていたいが、戻るとしよう。乙女を待たせているのでね。
それはいけないな。女性を待たせるのは愚かな男のすることだよ。
それではさらばだ、友よ。
バラの園で獣に噛みつかれるだろ
う。Those words shot out from behind me, making me stop in my tracks.
それは
予言と言ったら君は信じるかな。
忠実な騎士を野心に迷わせた荒野の魔女のように破滅という結末へ誘うのかね。
君はマクベス？それともバンクを？
私は成田真理だ。ところでこの学園にバラ園とやらはあるのだろうか。
どうやら君は恐れというものを知らない勇者らしい。
What the fuck are you talking about? His pen pointed in a certain direction.
それではひとたびの別れを成田君。また会える日を楽しみにしているよ。
A prediction claimed to have informed me of my future. How strange and intriguing. Felt bad for Sock, but decided to delay my return. Instead, I walked in the direction Taigi pointed and found a place with a wholly different atmosphere. Felt like I had been thrown into a different world. The space I found beyond the path surprised me. This field of roses, blooming vibrant red and white. The scent reaching my nose almost made me choke. The luxurious sight with a well-maintained field full of the Queen of Roses was enough to overwhelm most people. man who owned the school had to be one who truly understood beauty. Couldn't underestimate him.
あれは
いいだろいいだろ
ダメだよ。自分でやらないと。
At the entrance of the rose garden, I saw something beast-like attack someone. Two silhouettes were battling. One was a small student in a uniform, while the other was a small woman.
いいからそれをよこせ。
Suddenly, the small woman lost her balance. She almost fell head first, but she somehow landed on her feet like an elegant cat instead. Of course, she fell not because she stumbled on something. I just so happened to throw her off balance.
いきなり何しやがる。俺に訴えがんのかてめえ。
The woman barking at me was rough, but not unrefined. She had a clarity to her that didn't seem to suit her intense speech pattern. Though small, she had comfortably slender legs. I could tell they were well maintained. Based on the fact that she understood I was to blame for her almost falling, and from how she handled her legs, it was clear that she had a grasp of martial arts. She had long hair fixed at the side of her head, and beauty that contained both sharpness and strength. That compared to anything, I would say she was a leopard, a creature that moved with grace and power. The beastly intensity of the emotion she projected was pleasant.
何やら想像しい様子だったのでね。バラの園とは静かに見とれるのがふさわしい場所ではないかね。
何こいつ。
僕に言われても。
They stopped squabbling and looked at each other. They were soon joined by someone else.
彼は成田真理、転校生です。
The one who joined us was Saku. She must have grown tired of waiting and came to find me.
あ、それじゃあこいつが空子の言ってた。
新しいエトワールの仲間。
こいつ男じゃねえか。それに俺のこといきなり投げやがったんだぞ。こんなやつのどこが仲間だ。
ええ、まったく。
どうかしたのサク。らしくないけど。
うん。転校初日で噂になっているとは、さすがは私。我ながら面はゆいが、成田真理だ。本日付でこのスクールの学生として諸君らと共に学ぶことになった。よろしく頼もう。
何この天然上から目線。
どうかしたの、つらこ。
別にどうっていうわけじゃないんだけど。
ともかく彼は海外暮らしが長かったらしくて、そのせいか日本の空気にまだ馴染めていません。
要するに変人ってか。
そういうことは言っちゃダメだよ。
成田くん、紹介します。この二人は私やあなたと同じエトワールです。7回生の桂木空子と6回生の赤人玉緒です。
うん。先ほどは何やらみだらな空気を感じて割って入ったのだが、君たち2人は知り合いなのだとすると、先の一幕はいわゆる地上のもつれというやつだろうか。
誰がみだらで地上のもつれだ。
Tamo turned red. She seemed to be the type who showed her emotions easily.
あのな、空子はあんな格好だけど。
男子の制服を着ているが、彼女は裏若き乙女だというのだろう。そんなことは遠目からでも一目見ればわかると思う。
I like how they decided to go for that, but then immediately be like, yeah, it's just fucking obvious looking, because, like, we're looking at her, it's like, yeah, it's fucking obvious. Like, it's either a trap or a girl. And considering that she's on the front page of the fucking thing, probably a girl.
わかっちゃうんだ。
Soroko Mitsuragi. She wore a faint smile and for some reason a boy's school uniform. Standing collar with decorations on the shoulder, pants with folds. The rough exterior unique to male clothing did nothing to hide her beauty. In fact, it made it stand out all the more. It wasn't an androgynous charm. It was a warped kind of beauty where the manly decorations only accentuated her refinement and softness as a woman. If I had to compare her to something, I'd say she was a glasswork flower. Though they had no life, being created by the hands of man, gave them a charm that no wild flower contained. She was wearing that intentionally, while being aware of such nuances, I could do nothing but bow my head to her sense of aesthetics.
私は応用な男だと自認している。愛に決まった形などなくてよい。万人には万人の愛の姿があるのだよ。たとえ男装の乙女と獣のごとき少女が描く愛憎劇であれ、私は何ら蔑もうとは思わない。
誰が獣だ。この場で脳書ぶちまけて庭の肥やしになりてえか。
何？違うだと。
What a surprise! In my shock, I couldn't help but try to confirm the facts at hand. I closed in on Tomo. No, don't. Is he gonna confirm, like, is she a girl after all, and just go for the titty? Her eyes widened. It was such a shame that I couldn't answer her passionate gaze properly.
そんなあっさり玉緒の間合いに入るなんて。
成田くん、本当にすごいよ。
That's so amazing, she says. And he grabs her titties and is like, oh, okay, I take that back. Thus, to clear the darkness of my doubt.
成田ダメ。ちょっと待ちな。
Need them with vigor. Again, no option, just say no. It's just, you will grope the titty. Okay, I kinda have to go for that face, because that's an amazing face. Like a truth-seeking philosopher, I grabbed Tomo's flatness. I used both hands, just in case. One was enough, but I couldn't afford to make any mistakes.
小さいが確かに伝わる張りと柔らかさ。間違いなく本物の乙女ブレストと判断する。獣ではないと言われたので焦ったが、君は私が見込んだ通りの女性ではないか。この目はやはり乙女の胸を決して見誤ったりはしないのだ。
痛い乙女の胸を何だと思ってやがるんだ。
たっぷりと堪能したとも。故にこの私が保証しよう。足りない君を。薄さは罪とはいえ、それを嘆くことはない。小さきには小さきなりの美と味わいがあるのだから。
He's not even that small!
俺の胸もんで言うにこと書いて足りない。
She laughed like some part of her had snapped.
玉緒ちゃん、しっかりして。
玉緒、壊れちゃダメよ。
絶対に許さねえ。今すぐ殺すしなす八つ裂きにしてやろう。飛び散って死ねえ。
She jumped at me with impressive nimbleness, launching a lethal roundhouse kick that dispersed the smell of roses. I easily dodged it, making a merciless attack, cut the air right above my head.
そんな玉緒の蹴りを避けた。
てめえ動くな。
Right, left, above. She became a storm and released 3 fast, powerful kicks. Easily avoided them. Flowers raised by the wind she created began raining down like snow.
もしかしてあの人、玉緒ちゃんの攻撃見えてる？
まさかそんなの信じられない。
こいつちょこまかだ。
His body language continued for almost a minute. All of her attacks simply sailed through the air, and she was now panting. It was a bit early to lose your breath, but that was only natural. Fatigue from missing an attack was a lot worse than from landing it. And it was the mental fatigue. The impossible idea that she couldn't hit me was making her panic.
玉緒、君はいささか力に頼りすぎだね。速度はあるが次の攻め手が分かりやすすぎる。本物の一流をその目で見たことはあるかね。例えばボクシングの世界ランカー。最適と最短へ自らを完成させるその技術はまさにアートと呼ぶのがふさわしい。それにどうやら君はこういった舞台向きではないのだろう。
ちくしょう、成田だったな。お前そこまで言った以上 後悔すんじゃねえぞ。
Honestly, God, considering how I like how Narita has been thus far, I just imagine him like when, like he's basically sees an attack that he can't dodge instead of like even trying to dodge. It's like, ooh, wow, impressive. Just gets fucking nailed in the face. Tama's expression changed. The angle was the same, but there was a sense of revelry in there. She lost herself and declared that she would remove the final limiters placed on her.
それはダメだよ、玉緒ちゃん。
Soroko stopped her, returning the light of reason to her enraged eyes. It has to be the magic born of their friendship, but alas was dispelled by someone else.
構わないわ。やりなさい、玉緒。
サク。
サク、何言ってるんだよ。成田くん本当に死んじゃうよ。
正直そっちの方がいいかなとか、割と本気で思わなくもないんだけど。
サク、今何か言っちゃいけないことを言わなかったかな。
私も成田真理という男を見極めたい。全力でやりなさい、玉緒。
いいんだな。どうなっても知らねえぞ。
Honestly, God, I just want to like test by sending this to like a person I know. The response is gonna come back the same way as with Beidou, with the whole like she could break my arm and I would thank her. Tamo cracked a wild, feral smile. It was beastly, full of unending confidence. It's enchantingly beautiful.
これは何とも総決立。どうやら私は窮地を予感しているらしい。
The experience and intuition I've cultivated of the many dangers that experience made us consciously simulate my fate. This would be a dance of death. I wanted to win at, stop her before she moved.
さて玉緒、君は一体何をするつもりなのだろう。やはりいいものだね。未知とは紅葉だ。まだ見ぬ者との出会いほど心躍るものはない。
I knew I was in danger, but I simply watched her. My mind, fear and panic lost against the excitement. I felt like a maiden with a crush. Had no intention of dying, of course. Couldn't die in a place like that. Yet to fulfill the promise I'd made. I would pass this wall before me and arrive at my destined stage.
おう、サクのお許しが出たからな。こっから先は遊び抜きだ。乙女の胸を揉んだ罪、内臓全部飛び散らせてバラの肥やしになってから後悔しやがれ。
Words that followed were like a song as they echoed through the garden.
Set! How beauteous mankind is. Brave new world. Typed Tempest. 4. Run!
Next moment she vanished. And she only left behind countless flower petals and a whirlwind carrying the dense scent of roses. Listening to the sound of wind, the cutting wind, I followed her. Tamo ran towards my left, nothing fancy. Well, her speed was inhuman. Beastling was quite apt. She moved at 70 kilometers per hour, making a mess of the flowers. I dodged the first attack. Right, straight she launched actually gave me chills. The attacks I dodged so easily had become lethal strikes that I'd avoided by a hair's breadth. I'd have definitely been hit if my instincts hadn't made me back away a bit. She said that she was going all out. And it was clear she hadn't been exaggerated. Her attacks were so fast I couldn't see them at all. So powerful that a single jab could be a blood-rending cannon shot. A body-rending cannon shot. She made the air around her explode just by running. Tamo became the wind, carrying the vibrant flowers and their smell. Top athletes competing in track and field ran at 30 to 40 kilometers per hour at the most. Tamo's speed was downright inhuman. She wasn't bound by direction. Tamo dashed left, right, and even up. A humanoid being freely running at such speed was too fast to follow with the naked eye. Tamo didn't stop for a moment. Her style was to attack, then quickly back down, and she repeated that 3 times in a row. Continuous attacks made it feel like I was on death's door, even though all her movements and attacks were obvious and telegraphed. Her offensive style had changed at all. The only difference was the overwhelming speed. Rocket-like explosive speed turned her right straights into steel hammers, while her kicks were akin to lightning bolts. Predicting the trajectory meant nothing, since one couldn't dodge anything that was far faster than them. Finally came to understand that her speed wasn't just a hint of her power. She ran, jumped, and launched attacks at a level far above what she had before she'd sung those words. The true explanation for that was simple. She raised the output of her muscles, skeletal frame, and body in general to heights that granted her inhuman speed and power. It was a very physical ability, both simple and powerful. It was the true nature of Tomo's power. She crushed all technique and skill with strength alone.
今すぐやめさせないとあの人死んじゃうよ。
本当に？
だって避けるのに精一杯じゃない。
ええ、避けているのよ。玉緒の本気をね。さっきみたいに投げ飛ばす余裕はなくても、玉緒の全力を相手にして避け続けている。成田真理。
You got some kind of foresight or something?
何をどうやって？
Like at least mild? Tomo finally became visible. She stopped. She was about 10 meters away. Her tense expression of anger was surely because she'd been certain that she would defeat me.
お前なんでまだ生きてんの？そいつがお前のハローか？
ハローか。なるほど。玉緒、君のその力がハローなのだね。
分かりきったこと聞くない。だからこの学園にいるんだろうが。
よくわかった。君が答えてくれた以上、私も答えなければなるまい。私のこれは単なるスキルだ。ハローとは無関係。物理に基づいた至極真っ当な力学による結果。人間とはこの程度の芸当なら計算次第でできるようになるものだよ。
ほうへえはあ、スキル技術ってか。お前は何様なんだよ。達人様か？そんなもんで俺のハローを避けられるのかよ。
冗談のつもりはないのだがね。コミュニケーションとはいつもながら難しいものだ。
もういいよ。お前の言うことが本当だろうが不可視だろうが構わねえ。お前は俺をコケにしやがった。
よかろう、玉緒。それが君の怒りというのなら、自らの信じるところをなせ。
震えろよ。ぶっ殺す！
Tomo created even more distance between us, getting about 20 meters away from me. It was basically on a launching pad. Couldn't protect myself against the speed created by that much acceleration. She would pulverize all in her way to hit her intended target. A burst of wind. She launched herself forward only to throw herself into the air, limbs spread out. Unable to understand what happened, Tomo flew high into the air. He used a technique named Nade, or river, to redirect the kinetic energy from her charge upward. She went soaring so high because she had moved too
これも
fast.
ただのスキルだかね。玉緒、君の選択は悪手だった。
She tried to crush me with overwhelming speed, but the long distance she'd created between us had given me the time to counter her assault. It only increased her power and speed. Techniques were still simple, so I usually predicted what she'd do and prepared counters. If she wanted to win, she should have fought me from up close and given me no chances to react. The defeat had been set in stone the moment she focused on nothing but power and created distance to increase it. Tomo was still really high, to be heard even if she landed perfectly. Despite knowing that their feminine arms couldn't do little to help, Sakura and Sorako jumped up to catch her, though they didn't even make it. She fell completely at the mercy of gravity. She looks dead inside.
怪我はないかね。
I'd caught Tomo and now held her like a
女
bride.
性を傷つけるのは本意ではないのだよ。
Tomo's head was still spinning. Shock from being sent so high had made a mess of her blood flow, turning her visible skin a deep shade of red.
どうやら怪我はないらしい。大事がなくて幸いだ。しかし万一があるといけない。サク、教室へ行く前に寄り道をしたいのだが構わないかね。 できれば医務室まで案内してくれないだろうか。
Right by my side, there were Saku and Soroko. Thoroughly flabbergasted. Fortunately, my voice was enough to make them snap out of it.
はい。こっちよ。成田くん。ありがとう。待って、ダメ。こんなの、出れたら。
では、玉尾。今しばらくこのまま我慢してくれたまえ。
お願いだから。どうして。
So I followed Saku to the infirmary. Tamo held in my arms all the while. Like, please let me down. Sorry, I can't hear you over how much of a Chad I am. As he just moves on.
成田真理という本日より諸君らの同輩として席を並べて学ぶことになる。
I calmly introduced myself and under the cautious gaze of many individuals. Actually, you know what? Fuck, let's go back. This is the start of a new episode, so it's
本
a
日より
good
諸君ら
place
の
to
同輩
end
として
it.
席を並べて学ぶことになる。よろしく頼もう。
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. To see you next time. Bye bye. Reminds me, I completely forgot to actually like set a new date for the next Sabbath of the Witch recording. So I guess there's not gonna be one this week. Fuck. I'm retarded. Whoops. Bye.